Now, and I say this, and I'm not anti-pill, there's a time and a place for everything, but I lost 6 years of my life to pills when I said I couldn't sleep, my head was hurting. And I know that's not unique, but I can't get that time back. And as God is my witness, I don't want anyone else to go through that time. I didn't know that there was natural and immediate options underneath their own skin that we could access. No one told me about that. No one tells you that these pills, as easy as they are to throw at you, they don't tell you the cost of taking them. Like, there is genuinely like a 6-year block in my life. I don't remember much. And I think it's wiped out a bunch of memories that I didn't even know I had. I was around a mate's place the other day and I said, "Oh, this place looks familiar." And he looked at me like I was stupid. He says, "Tim, you helped me move in here."
All right, welcome Tim Thomas to the podcast. Tim, how you doing?
Kevin, big g'day from down under, mate.
It's good to see an Aussie there, and a fellow veteran, right? You know, we're all contrary to what some people may believe. We are all allies here, and allied with you, and worked with fellow Aussies and Kiwis and Germans in my time in Iraq and Afghanistan. So it's good to have some fellow veterans on this podcast to talk through their life journey, talk about the great things that they're doing now, not only for veterans, but I think with you personally for the rest of the world. Like this is important stuff. I would say, especially with the world around us and the chaos that's around us, sometimes we just need to take a breath and understand that we will make it out of this. We've always, as humans, made it out of these kind of things. So I would love to give you some time to kind of talk about yourself, who you are, your journey, and then we'll get started into just having a conversation.
Yeah, Kevin, you actually said something there before, mate. The things that happen in the veteran space aren't veteran-centric. Like, a lot of people go through that, but veterans tend to have this really acute exposure to it. Like, it's a 24/7, it's a lifestyle thing. You're around I always kind of call it, you're around people that are black belts and fucking themselves up. And that's just a culture. It's just normal, right?
Right.
And that actually makes us black belt healers. And if you can make something work in that sort of hard-boiled veteran space, then it's got a really high likelihood of making a big impact outside of that. And that's kind of been my journey, mate. Like, I've done all the wrong things that have brought me to the right places. The darkest places has brought me into a place of light. And essentially back to the same heart that had me serve my country in the armed forces still has me serving, but I'm no longer with the identity of just holding a rifle. So my story isn't unfamiliar. So if you go to see a doctor and say, "Oh, my head's hurting me and I can't sleep," what does he do, Kevin?
Yeah, yeah. You see, he's gonna tell you where you're hurt, probably give you pills. You know.
Now, and I say this, and I'm not anti-pill, there's a time and a place for everything, but I lost 6 years of my life to pills when I said I couldn't sleep, my head was hurting. And I know that's not unique, but I can't get that time back. And as God is my witness, I don't want anyone else to go through that time. I didn't know that there was natural and immediate options underneath their own skin that we could access. No one told me about that. No one tells you that these pills, as easy as they are to throw at you, they don't tell you the cost of taking them. Like, there is genuinely like a 6-year block in my life. I don't remember much. And I think it's wiped out a bunch of memories that I didn't even know I had. I was around a mate's place the other day and I said, "Oh, this place looks familiar." And he looked at me like I was stupid. He says, "Tim, you helped me move in here."
Wow.
And I'm like, "Oh, shit. I hope I was a good person." I'm not going to have some guy punch me in the face, go, "Remember that?" And I'm like, "I don't know, man." And so there's not just the unknown cost of taking these pills that are so readily available. It's the difficulty of coming off them. It's kind of like and people that are hurting, they're vulnerable. They want something that makes them feel better, and these pills do. But it's a bit like, okay, I'm broke. Someone's giving me a loan for $200, but then I got to pay $300 back the next week, and so I'm still broke the next week. So I got to take more, and they kind of put you more and more in this energetic debt. And when you come off these things, man, I never knew that you could turn a second into a minute,
Yeah.
and an hour into a day. But I got to that place because things were going on that I wasn't admitting. And I was blessed to be a tough dude. And I hang out in a culture that you wear it like a badge. And in the unit, when you had pain, you just took a handful of pills and you kept going. And I'm not against hardening the hell up and getting the job done. This country was made great by this. There is a time and a place. But if that becomes your go-to, if you're continually cashing in your tomorrows to live today, which I was doing, it eventually catches up to you. And that looked like in 2011, I'm about to kill a man. All right. My time in the Special Forces ended a year earlier. The government wasn't paying me. This would have been murder because my family was falling apart. My head was all over the shop. And they said, oh, you got to go see a psychologist. And that made no sense to me because I didn't know the guy, I didn't trust him, and I don't like talking about this stuff. And I realized I paid good money when I went and saw him. I realized I paid good money to sit in front of somebody who was not just incompetent. Like, I honestly believe if you're stupid, it's not your fault. Sometimes people have more IQ and less, and I like to think that I show the same grace to someone that doesn't have as much IQ than someone with a higher IQ shows me, So, it's forgiving in that space, but if someone's incompetent, not incompetent, if someone's apathetic, if they're apathetic, that's a conscious choice. So this guy didn't even want to be in the room, and, he had this mug that, when people make a big like slurping noise. He was doing that the whole time. I said, do you mind not doing that? And he kept doing it, right? And then after I told him, like, this is a real story, Kevin. I told him all the shit I saw in Afghanistan, all the stuff that's going on in my immediate family. He kind of looked down from the roof, snorted and went, oh, you think it was a problem with your mum and dad?
It's always problems with parents, right? That's the go-to.
Yeah, man, look, that room froze. And time, tick, 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 stop. I made a quick inventory of the room and I'm like, okay, this guy here, and I'm in a state of disconnect right now. This guy here, he says he's a healer, but he's not just not healing, he's harming people. So in my state of disconnect, it made a lot of sense to remove him because I'd be removing the harm he's causing to others. And I saw his glass frame psychology degree behind him. And I'm like, this is going to be poetic. I'm going to feed him his own words. And I get out of my chair to do this. And you have to understand, before I was in the Special Forces, I was 6 years full-time, early days mixed martial arts. So I knew that if I set my mind to it, there's not a goddamn person on earth that could have stopped me. So this thing in my mind had already happened. I'm doing this, right? And this is where it gets a bit woo-woo. I felt this hand on my chest, not enough to stop me, but like just enough to pause. I've got both my hands on the chair, ready to get out, hand on my chest. And 3 words I'd never heard before. It was red flag Tim. And it was enough to pause me. And I'm like, Tim, you're the toughest motherfucker you know. And you are struggling in a system that doesn't seem to understand or not even care about getting you better or helping you or healing you. It's like they want to keep you sick. And this was the golden question that stopped me going to jail. How many other people do you think are up against this right now? And I sat back down feeling rather defeated. But that's when I saw them. hundreds of thousands of people to my left, hundreds of thousands of people to my right, stuck in the same system. Now, they weren't saying anything, but they were looking in. They had that face of desperation and hurt. And I could hear their thoughts. They were saying, Tim, if you can find a way forward for you, you can find a way forward for us. And in that moment, I discovered that the most dangerous thing about pain is it gets to a certain duration or intensity where it transforms from just pain into loneliness, isolation. I'm the only one going through this. And in that state of disconnect, you can justify doing all sorts of dumb shit. Like, I'm about to kill a guy who posed no physical threat to me. And when I asked that question, how many people are up against what I'm up against, and I actually saw them to my left and my right, wheeling me on, as much as I didn't know what I was going to do next, I said to myself, look, even if it takes me a week, a month, a year to make an inch of progress, that's the amount of time I'm going to save all these other people. And from that moment, I went forward to create some of Australia's most impactful veteran recovery programs. Because in that, villain hero moment, I discovered something that's not on the spreadsheet that people kind of talk about, but don't address. And that is loneliness and isolation is the root blockage to our connection to everything, right? And then on top of that, there is fatigue. So if I'm the only one that's got my back and I can't drop my guard, because if I drop my guard for a second, something bad's going to happen, then I'm not sleeping. And those two things, isolation, fatigue, stop the millions and billions of dollars being effectively spent on mental health. All that stuff is water off a duck's back if you're not addressing the isolation and the fatigue. So we had a goal of saving 40 veteran lives from suicide. And that was a lifetime goal. I didn't care if I worked the rest of my life to do that. If I achieved that, I would die happy. That was, with those two things, we achieved that within 12 months. With those two things and a bugger all budget, we did more with a handful of change than millions of dollars misspent. And we just noticed that for us, our measure of success was what we call the 3 Ps. It has to be powerful, it has to be positive, but the third P, everyone sort of knows about but doesn't necessarily implement. It's got to be permanent. Because you can be powerful and positive on Wednesday, but by Sunday, nothing's there anymore. So permanency was, if you say you care about somebody, you've got to care about them the next day, the next week, the next year. And we noticed that the more we improve sleep, the more all these other metrics improved. And sleep's very measurable. So that's where we created programs that broke the isolation, got them out of fatigue, and had an impact on their sleep. And then I'm like, well, how about we just make it all about sleep? And it was then I just started to discover natural ways to go about that. I'd known about breathwork. I'd sort of come across it a little bit in Afghanistan when I was in an extreme state of fatigue. I used to do a deep breathing and it would restore things. But it wasn't until got divorced, lost house, home, regular access to kids. I'm sleeping on the couch in my parents' place. And you can bet at 2 a.m. things aren't going too well. And I knew about breathwork and breath, but it's like I couldn't breathe. It's like in that moment was another revelation moment where, like, your mind's like a garden, whatever you water grows. and I was doing a good job of watering the stress weeds. And those stress weeds don't just take over the garden. It's like eyeballs pop out them, they become sentient. If you try and feed the good parts of yourself, these sentient stress weeds take their resources. And so there I was, 2 a.m. I knew that if I did breath work, I'd get the peace and power I'm looking for, but it's like I couldn't. And I get up probably 2 a.m. I was going to do alcohol, pill, self-harm, maybe all three. And I look at my left thumb and I'm like, Tim, you can take one breath. Take one fucking breath. And I drove it into my chest and oh my gosh, that worked. That first breath was like coming up from the black depths of the ocean. Okay, take two, and I stuck a second finger in two breath. Third breath, third finger, fourth breath. Get to 5, finger at a time, breath at a time, and somewhere between breath 15 and 25, those stress weeds got kicked out, and the rest of my brain was like, Tim, thank fuck you kicked those guys out. This is working, don't stop. And it was that kind of moment where I'm like, holy shit, this stuff is really real. But it's hard to, breath work's hard to do on its own for its own sake, unless you're particularly disciplined. So I started, I knew that it sort of had to be guided. So I started making these stupid ass recordings of my own voice. Hey, Tim, breathe in, breathe out. But it was like, it worked. If it's stupid and it works, it's not stupid, right, Kevin? You know?
Right.
And so I made these stupid ass recordings and they just kept working. I was sharing them with my friends and it worked for them. And I'm like, well, I think I'm tapping into something really big here. And that's sort of how I got to where I am now through, in those really low points. If something can work for you there, I think it's up to us to make it accessible to others. I guess that's how I got to where I am now. Like I'm like, if this works for me in the bottom of fucking hell, then it's my responsibility to make it, accessible for others.
Yeah, it's an incredible story, and I think a lot of times for veterans, for a combat veteran like yourself, we believe that we're very unique because it's less than 1% of the population has actually gone through that experience, right? But what you just laid out with the thousands on the right and thousands on the left of people who are dealing with the same thing, and I would say millions of people out there, you don't have to see combat to be stressed and to do to what you just talked about, the with the fatigue and the isolation. I think if you want to radicalize someone, you isolate them and you make them fatigued, and that radicalized, and we're seeing that today in around the world of um, both young people and older people who are isolating themselves from the real world through social media, and they're always on, always up. Look, I'm perpetually online. I do a bunch of open source intelligence analysis, and so I'm perpetually online, and I have to stop myself from time to time from doing that. Um, but I love that. Look, I'm not unique. If it works for me, there's probably millions of other people who need this that it can work for.
Yeah, Kevin, and I think what you just said there, I invite those people that are really listening to ask that question of themselves because we're all up against something. I just came to this question through the veteran space, but this can be come at from, any particular space. It could be cancer, relationship, overwork. But if you ask that question, how many other people do you think are in the same situation as me? And because we're all up against something, right? And don't just think about it. Give it a real number. Could be 10, could be 20, could be 100. I'd probably guess there's more than what you think. And then, place those people to your left and your right. If you said 50,000, there's 25,000 on your left, 25,000 on your right. And making progress when you're in those really low moments is particularly hard. It might take you a freaking year to make an inch of progress. But with those collective people either side of you, that's 50,000 inches you've made. And those people are going to be, a lot of them you haven't even met yet. Those people are going to be saying, you know what, we're so glad that back in 2026, you chose to move forward because you've now made it easier for us. And one conversation with you could save them a year, 2 years, 10 years, you know? And if you really want to go through the looking glass here, Kervin, if yourself or anyone listening is getting anything from what I'm sharing, you were with me in 2011 in that psychologist's office. I hadn't met you yet, but you were with me, willing me on.
It's powerful to think that way because the reason why, and again, not saying don't take medication. This is not, don't listen to the doctor, don't take a pill. But the reason why for pain, for fatigue, for sleep, pills are pushed there is because it's an easy win. It's quick and it's easy. The ramifications of that are powerful and negative. But at least in the moment, you're you're healed, for lack of a better term. But from what you're saying, and this is with working out, this is with intelligence, this is with anything, it takes time. It doesn't happen overnight. And the you of today should be thinking about the you of a year, 5 years, 10 years down the line. And who is that you going to be? A shell of yourself or the person that you wanted to be in that moment?
Hmm. Yeah, well stated, Kervin, because there's a lot of people out there saying, doctors are evil and pills are evil. Like, there's a time and a place for everything, and sometimes taking pills is the lesser of two evils. But people forget that it's a chemical cast. When you break a bone, you put a cast on. Eventually, that cast is going to come off. It's not supposed to be there the whole goddamn time. But unfortunately, nobody is there saying, hey, you got to take the cast off now, because often these things created a unhealthy dependency, and a fear of, taking that off because I've had it there the whole time. And I'm blessed, I would say, to be dyslexic, so I see things in patterns. And the pattern that just kept on standing out to me is if you can restore someone's fatigue, if you can improve their sleep, you can improve everything about them. Conversely, if you want to destroy someone, destroy their sleep. In Afghanistan, we used to target the enemy's sleep. We didn't know about the science of sleep. We just knew if we could take it out for 3 nights, it would mess them up better than a bullet.
Right.
So if you hate somebody, you want to mess them up, destroy their sleep. And back in the modern world, I see our sleep constantly under attack, but there's not one particular enemy. I see sleep under attack, and I know you look at a lot of screens, and I'm sure. Do you have one of those blue blocking filters, or those, those blue blocking glasses you can wear?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, but it kind of looks stupid, but if it's stupid and it works, it's not stupid, right? So,
Right.
artificial light, the scrolling, but the other thing that's being attacked, and I'm going to talk military tactics here, is when you're engaged with an enemy, you've got to find out their center of gravity. And it could be a particular area of operations. If you can off-center them and so they can't move freely in that area, then you're starting to win. And dyslexic pattern recognition kicking in here, I see us humans, we've got a center of gravity, and you'll know it when I say it out loud, but it's always being impacted, and we kind of take it for granted. Our center of gravity, as best as I've seen it, is our sense of self-worth. If someone wants you to buy something, they'll attack your sense of self-worth. Oh, hey, Tim, you didn't know this, but your elbow is really ugly. It's not your fault. You didn't know this. Everyone's probably laughing, but you know what? You give us $35 and we'll give you a cream to make that ugly looking elbow, so much better. And people often get into states of fatigue because I've got 1,000 different hacks to improve energy and improve sleep, but people don't see why they get into states of fatigue. And one of which is the sense of self-worth. If we have our sense of self-worth, and that's super powerful to us, if that is attached to a product, a thing, basically anything outside your own skin, then we will work ourselves to an inch of death to try and achieve that. Oh, I can feel valuable if I have that car. I can feel like I've got a sense of self-worth if I have that house. You know, somebody said something bad about me, so now I need to compensate with these particular things. So, when I'm working with people, my goal is to have them becoming self-made, energetic millionaires. Now, what do I mean by that? There's a concept that your energy is like money. How you spend it is how you get it back. There's some things that you do in your day that you might invest $10 worth of energy in, and you get $100 back. They normally make you feel bloody good. And there's some people that you invest energy into, and you get $100 back. Conversely, there's some people you hang out with, you invest energy into, and they take $1,000. You're like, God damn, energy vampire.
That's what I call them, energy vampires. Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So, what I encourage people to do is understand this concept that energy is like money. How you invest, it's how you get it back. And you have a unique energy signature. You've got a particularly unique thing that you do that gives you a really good return. Now, for some people, it might be, I don't know, guitar playing. I'm not a guitarist. This is just an example. And they spend $100 worth of energy playing a guitar, they get $10,000 back. That's unique to them. If I spent $100 playing guitar, it would probably take from me, right? So that's saying to thine own self be true, and finding your destiny isn't for me like a mystical path. It's almost as obvious as a spreadsheet. There's the things that you do that make you feel amazing, and I'm switched on. Who I am is into the world, and I'm feeling this is my energetic investment. But unfortunately, that often gets hijacked if our sense of self-worth gets off-centered. You can't feel good about you until you have a particular thing, a particular shape, a particular, hierarchical position in society. And for me, it's hard to even think like that if your sleep is being attacked. And I tend to think that, you need to have a group of fatigued people, because then they spend more money on shit they don't need. Like if you had a group of people that was well rested, knew their value, affirmed their value, and actually saw the benefit in building each other up, and you had another group, wasn't sleeping, didn't know their value, turned on each other, who would buy more shit they didn't need? Who would be more unstable? So what I'm getting at here is, I see that the ultimate disruptive tech is getting a good night's sleep, bringing who you are truly into the world, and knowing that at the end of every day, you can give yourself that peace, that power. And how do we do that? One way is breath work. Everyone listening to this has a set of lungs, and what you're going to discover is we weren't given lungs, we were given a medicine cabinet with a lot of different shelves. And we can access it whenever, however. And what people discover is that, like, your breath is your lifelong best friend. The power in your corner. The best friend at 2 a.m. It's never not there. And nobody's going to do this for you. And nobody's really talking about this because essentially no one's making money from it, right? It kind of takes someone, like myself that was, fucked up 6 ways from Sunday, and then made a promise that he didn't want anyone else to go through the same thing. And I've been determined enough to make accessible tools for people that go, you know what, that's something I want. That here's an offering. That was my chance at being permanent, making, digital tools that people can offer, not just a talk fest.
Yeah, and you said there's quite a few things that you just said that I want to unpack here. And first, top of mind right now is this philosophy that you just described. That I don't know if I'm sure I knew this, but I never thought about it, and how the way that we see ourselves can make us fatigue, right? How how we see we're not good enough. I'm not making enough money. So what do? Work more. If you work more, you sleep less. I don't look good enough. So I'm gonna work out not in a way where you work out to feel better, but only to look good. And then you take certain things for that. That ruins your sleep. I don't feel good about myself, so I drink alcohol every night, and that ruins your sleep. So I the philosophy was there, I think. It just was not top of mind for me, but the way that you put it was very succinct, and I think it's an incredible message to people who are we all struggle. Like even the richest, like I would say this, everybody looks at billionaires and says either they have the life or I want to have that. And there's some of the most depressed, saddest people that you'll ever meet in your life because they're just constantly trying to achieve the next thing. You'll see the most, what you would consider the most beautiful person. And if you really sat with them one on one, they would tell you about all their insecurities and they keep working to try to achieve, to be greater and greater. And all of that causes fatigue.
And, wealth is a bit like pills. We're not against it, but there's certain things it can do and there's certain things it can't do. And it's not money's fault that you assume that it's going to give you a sense of self-worth. You assume it's going to cure all your life problems. You assume that once you have it, you can finally rest, be at peace because you know you're valuable. Like that's not money's fault. That's you. We just have these attachments. Or as I call them, bottomless buckets we're trying to fill the same way everyone else is trying to fill them. And they kind of fill for a bit, but then the next day they're empty. Oh, how do I fill it? I'll do exactly what I did yesterday to fill this bottomless bucket. Yeah, been there, done that. And that the end state to that living is fatigue. And in a fatigue state, what do? Well, there's no point. And then the economy gets to the next level of exploitation. They do what I call pour dopamine over dysfunction. So I'm hurting, there's something that's not working. So I'd pour a lot of alcohol over the problem. I would, there's the scrolling, there's no shortage of false connections. And I say that because us humans, our peace, power, happiness, joy, contentment is relative to how connected we are. And there's a few misunderstandings around money. Oh, when I get a lot of money, I'll be fully connected. Not necessarily. People want to connect with me more. Well, not always. But this is where I've found that it works best. And like I said, I had to get divorced, lose house, home, money, regular access to kids to realize that everything outside of this stuff here, I can't control. And I'm a fool to think I could. But guess what? Underneath here, I can control. And there is so much power in that. Power that is somewhat hidden in the mainstream. Because once you connect to this, man, you start realizing how redundant a lot of that stuff is. But again, to even think like that, you've got to be out of a state of fatigue. And so I like to think that everyone knows the life they want to live. And you can hear someone spruiking on, some social media platform. Oh, here's how you do it up here. But that's like the energetic superhighway. You need an on-ramp to get there.
Right.
Getting out of fatigue, breaking the isolation gives you that on-ramp to the lifestyle you actually want. Or to put it simply, the way I say it is sleep is the soil from which everything grows. And the very visual world we live in, they only see people say, oh, I don't have the fruit in my life that I want, using the tree analogy. My trunk's not in the right shape. And there's lots of people that'll sell you these surface level solutions. But someone who understands how growth happens will go into the unseen, the soil, and improve that. And again, it's not something anyone will do for you because you're tapping into real power and a side of yourself you possibly didn't even know existed. But that's what gives me so much joy and hope, Curvin, because it's not about, breathwork in bed giving you a good night's sleep. It's about that soil improving, and each of us have these dormant seeds of greatness, uniqueness, just waiting for the right conditions for them to naturally flourish. And you cannot stop a seed from flourishing in the right conditions. But often it's just going to lay dormant until the conditions are right. And fatigued people are pretty poor growth conditions for those seeds of greatness. So that's what gets me excited, seeing what comes out of them as a result of quality sleep, as a result of them discovering their lung cage as a medicine cabinet. Things that it's like a color you've never seen before. Holy crap, never seen that before, didn't even know it was in there, but it feels good to contribute to that person flourishing.
Yeah, and absolutely. And we're talking a lot about sleep as a part of fatigue. And I've done meditation apps. Um, and it's really like this calming, which you do for breath work in bed. You do the calming, get you to sleep. But what I find
So,
unique,
because you've actually done it, haven't you?
yes, yeah. So I've started it. I'm on the app a few days, probably a weekend now. But what I find very interesting and what I really like about it is if if I am on, some other meditation app, and for me, it's getting up in the morning. It's not really sleep. I get 8 hours of sleep. I guess it's pretty decent. That's what my watch tells me. It's pretty decent sleep, but it's getting through the day and not getting fatigued. So it's like tons of coffee, energy drinks, all those kind of things. But what you have provided that I think these other meditation apps don't is that the wake up portion of it, which is quite different because the meditation apps for wake up is and they do well. It's not a diss on those. They want you to sit and breathe deeply and calmly and think about the day and make a list for the day. What do you want to accomplish? But yours is more like a spin class or a Peloton class. It's like a workout where you are super high energy. That's what I love about it. I don't need calm in my morning. I need high energy. I need someone that's like, now when you're done here, get the fuck out of bed and go do some stuff, right? And so that's what I really enjoy.
Well, Kervin, I'm really glad to hear that, because if we can win the first 5 minutes of the day, we've won the day. Because I've
Absolutely.
been that guy. I've lost the first 5 minutes of the day. In the veteran space, we talk about the negative vultures that sit on the bed head, that as soon as we're awake, they dive into our heads with all those negative thoughts, negative self-talk. But if I just had that stupid notification that I could tap and it starts going, do this, do that, and bit by bit by bit by bit, it turns everything around. And what I especially like about breath work is it's not, meditation is good, but that's thoughts controlling thoughts. Breath work is a chemical override. It's like going to the side of your house and pulling the fuse box out or giving it a big jolt, right? And there's, on the Breathwork in Bed app, there's breathwork that turns your bed into a cloud, specific breathwork that does that. But then there's specific breathwork that turns it into a trampoline. And there are slower starts, and the high, super high energy one that Kervin's talking about, I almost didn't put on there. I just made it for my, those super muscly guys with lots of tattoos.
Yeah.
They were down my gym. You know what? I'm going to do one for them. But then ended up to be, one of my most popular tracks
It's my
to
favorite
wake up
track.
to.
It really
I,
is.
I, it,
It's
it,
the coffee track.
yeah, yeah. I'm really glad. That one thing, I could never put that on there, but then it works. So I'm super glad to hear that someone on the other side of the world is getting benefit, my man. Um, and just on that, I do want to gift everybody here listening 28 days free use of the Breathwork in Bed app. Okay, and I understand fatigued people don't want 6 things to remember, so literally all you have to do is tell it when you want to sleep, when you want to wake up, and we take care of the rest with notifications. So it's as easy as that, my friends. But that first 5 minutes of the day, I mean, our states, and this is what I want to speak to right now, is greatly impacted by two moments that happen every 24 hours. 5 minutes before going to sleep and 5 minutes upon waking. That's when our unconscious mind is getting programmed. And as someone who, and most people poison both moments. They poison themselves going to sleep and they poison themselves waking up. I know I did that, right? And I didn't like trying to get to sleep. I used to try and pour alcohol and pills and all sorts of stuff on top of it. And you can do that, but it comes at a cost.
Right.
But if we can have that time guided with peace, power, connection, and people like yourself that sleep well for 8 hours, they don't need, help going to sleep. I would only offer this. When you sleep, your body does its deep cleaning processes, right? And doing breath work before sleep is a big oxygen boost for all your cleaning processes. Presence of oxygen, absence of disease. And as someone who's got a lot of chronic injuries, breath work for me is a massive anti-inflammatory, natural. I wake up feeling in less pain. So just consider that even if you are sleeping well, doing that oxygenation before your body does a deep clean, that's preventative medicine. And if you're one of those guys like yourself that is tracking it, you'll notice a bunch of other health modalities that happen as a result of that.
Yeah, and I think that's the true test, right? We've all got, I won't say all, but and maybe people are shifting away from this, but there's Aura rings, there's, your Apple Watch, Samsung, whatever, and it's tracking. You can track your health, right? You can
Mm.
see, like, if I were to go out and have a good time and go out drinking, and I'm calm and it was a great night and I had such a good experience, I will look at my sleep the next day and it's like your resting heart rate is up, which is a negative thing. Your breathing rate is down, which is a bad thing. And like you got maybe 8 hours of sleep because you overslept, maybe. But it wasn't good sleep, right? Um, and so I would say give this a shot, anyone listening, because you can track whether it's working or not. Like with with anything else, you take a pill. Like alcohol is not good, and I can track that every night. I know,
Mm.
okay, well, not every night, but a night of drinking the next morning, it's like, okay, that's bad. That's
Mm.
poison. The flip side of that, this is good. It can be considered a drug. A drug doesn't have to be something prescribed to you or something on a negative end. Breath work, I believe, is a positive drug. It increases dopamine. It helps your lungs, anti-inflammatory, all of those things you see on drug commercials or hear from your doctors that this thing does. I think what you're talking about does the same thing.
Yeah, and I do want to give a few little solid tips on sleep. Um, People often ask me, what's your best tip for sleep? First thing I'll talk about is coffee, everyone's favorite subject. All right. I actually think coffee's a good thing. But what a lot of people don't know, there are a lot of brain benefits to coffee. But if you mix that with milk, the milk proteins block the neural health benefits. Okay. So if you're going to want a coffee and you want it to taste creamy, there's a thing called bulletproof coffee where you put your black coffee in a blender, put some grass-fed butter or grass-fed ghee or some that clear coconut oil, and you blend it. You emulsify that, and that tastes nice and creamy. And the timing of which you take your first coffee each day is super important because 90 minutes after waking, your body's still purging, pushing out all these sleep chemicals, right? If you take a coffee within 90 minutes of waking up, that interrupts the tired chemical purge. All right. Um, and so you will get so much more from your coffee if the first thing in the morning, instead of having a coffee, have water and a pinch of salt. That will put, air in the tires. So when the coffee revs the engine, we got traction, you know? So that as a little hack, really helpful. The next one is attainable, but even more powerful. We're light receptive creatures. Okay. And when the light comes over the horizon, if you can get naked sunlight through your eyes, so no glass in front of it or glasses in front of it, when that light first comes over the horizon, there's a particular frequency that goes through your retinas and hits a part of your brain called the suprachiasmatic nucleus. And that thing in your brain is made for light reception. And what that does is we've got hundreds of internal clocks that become in sync, your circadian rhythms. And for the rest of the day, you're in sync. So if you've ever had the experience of at the end of the day, you flick the light off, you try and sleep, and there's a part of your head still running around the place, well, there's a circadian rhythm out of sync. And, when I was in the Special Forces, we used to have to get all our watches to the second of the commanding officer. Because if one of these guys was even 30 seconds out, that would make a big impact to the mission, right? So it's a beautiful thing to, where possible, get natural light on your face, on your skin, do some breath work, oxygenate, and get everything that which you are at an unseen level in sync and lined up together. And in the realm of permanency, Kervin and I, we've had a great chat. I'd love to do this again, and there's no shortage of things that we could talk about, I feel, but I want this to be more than just an authentic conversation, which is awesome. And I stand for authentic conversations. They can literally change the axis of the planets that spin. But I want to give people a tool around breath that they can use for the rest of their life, because I'm committed to you bringing your gifts into the world. And if I can have you access the medicine underneath your chest, then you're going to be, wherever you are, being able to flourish. So if you're open to it, Kervin, I'd love to show you a little breathwork technique. It's my party trick on how to completely relax your body in less than 3 breaths.
Let's do it.
Awesome. All right. So just a little caveat, anyone listening at home, be in a safe environment, be in a chair where you're completely supported. You can lay down if you want, but don't do this driving, cutting up carrots. Ideally seated or on a beanbag. And everything's an invitation. There's nothing forced here, because this is your breath and you're about to experience a very pleasant change of state. And sometimes the old state fights it. So I always ask for permission to feel good, right? So I'm going to ask 3 questions. I'm going to ask you, Kervin, and everyone listening, please draw these questions to yourself. Kervin, do you give permission to your very own breath to make every cell in your body feel really, really good?
100%, yes.
Awesome. All right. That was easy, right? Second question, just as easy. Kervin, do you give permission to your very own breath to make your conscious thinking mind feel really, really good?
100%, yes.
Awesome. Last one. Kervin, do you give permission to your own breath to make your unconscious mind feel really, really good?
That's a little bit different there, but yes, absolutely.
Yeah, I know. It makes you think, doesn't it? Right?
Yeah.
So now that we've got that ready, all we're going to do is breathe in, and then breathe in more. Raise your chin, breathe in more. Now hold it and just wriggle your shoulders, wriggle your spine, and let it out with a nice big sigh. Out. Just let that go through your system. That is your sovereign energy. No one did that for you. This is you and your breath. And I'm going to show you, we're going to start at the shallow end and we're going to go gently deeper. So I'm going to show you how to boost that. So you might have noticed, Kervin, when you breathed in, and then when you breathed in more, you felt your top third sort of filling up. All right?
Yep.
So for the sake of giving it a name, where we normally breathe in and out is our primary, and our secondary is our top third. Okay? So what I want you to do is we're going to exhale. We're going to breathe into our primary, and when it comes to our secondary, I want you to pinch your fingers really hard. So your 2 fingers and thumbs, pinch them really hard when you're in your secondary, okay? Because people don't know this, but they have these power buttons in their fingers and thumbs. So when they get this to their secondary and you hit that and look up, you'll notice that'll boost that little inhale. All right, so I invite everybody, have your power buttons ready. I've got them up here just so you can see them, but have them down by your side. And when you exhale, blow it out and shake it out. Out, 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 out. And really blow it all the way out. Blow out that last cup of air. Blow it out, shake it out, Curvin. Blow it out, shake it out. Out, 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 out. If you need to blow it out, blow it out, blow it out, blow it out. And when you're all the way out, blow out more, blow out more. Start breathing in through your nose. And when you're halfway in, hit those power buttons, look up. Now hold it and just wriggle your chest and feel your chest opening. Open that chest up, that big, strong, proud chest. Feel that chest opening up. Feel the warm sun coming into that chest. Feel that chest opening. And then when you're ready, let it out with a really big sigh. Out, 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 out.
All right.
Sit with that. Just sit with that for a second. And checking in, how are you feeling? And checking in, how are you feeling, Curvin?
It's first of all, I'm a little bit more awake now, but you can feel it in your lungs. Feel it. I feel it in my joints, things like that.
Good. And it's about to get better. So what we're going to do now is we're going to do exactly the same thing, but we're going to breathe in through our nose as fast as possible. We're going to really snort that air. Okay, so behind this nose of ours, we have sinuses. And those sinuses, when I as a professional fighter, my coach used to say, before you do a combination, do a big snort, because that oxygenates your brain and you circumvent your lungs. And breathing through your nose produces a gas that is not produced when you breathe through your mouth. It produces a gas called nitric oxide. And that's a very interesting gas. Nitric oxide is a vasodilator. It improves brain health, mood regulation, immunity, cardiovascular output, recovery, sleep, anti-inflammation. If you went to the chemist and said, give me pills that give me all these benefits, you'd be paying hundreds of dollars, right? But this nose here is a pharmacy in itself. So we're going to blow it out and shake it out. And when we're all the way out, I want you to double the speed of your inhale and wriggle, 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 and let it out with a sigh. If you want to turn your microphone, feel free, but I want that sigh to be as loud as possible. And the more you sort of unlock this thing, the more that stuck energy is going to be coming out. Cool, cool? All right. So with your power buttons ready and remembering to rapidly inhale through the nose, blow it out, shake it out, blow it out, shake it out, 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 more, more, more. You'll be surprised how much you can blow out. And when you're all the way out, start rapidly breathe in, hit those power buttons. Open, 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 more, 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 more. Open that chest, lean back, open. Now hold it and wriggle, wriggle, wriggle. Wriggle, wriggle, wriggle. Wriggle up that sigh. Make that wriggling it up. Wriggle that spine. Wriggle that spine. And when you can't stop that sigh, let it out with a big woo.
It's a lot of energy, a lot of good energy.
Okay. And just check in with your body. Because consider the possibility, Curvin, that could have been your first real breath. And we don't just get more energy from the oxygen and the nitric oxide. Proper breathing gives you proper structure. And our body is powered by electricity from our brain. It's an electrical generator, and it's got these cables going through your whole system. But these aren't solid cables. They're like squishy, like garden hoses. And if you step on your garden hose, well, then there's less water going through the end. And when we're hunched over, we're essentially stepping on the energy hoses through our system. So when we breathe in, and we have correct posture, we have access to so much more energy. Not that we're more energetic, but because we're just not pinching it off from the source. You get that? So what I want people to take away from this is, with these power buttons, it's very handy if you're kicking around in the real world, and I'm human, okay? And good energy levels don't mean that you never get knocked off your center, don't mean that you don't ever get pissed off. It just means when you do get off-centered, you get back-centered in far less time. Your low points aren't as low, as long, or as destructive. It just means you get back to center. So these little power buttons, what I encourage people to do, so when I'm in public and something bothers me, let's say I'm waiting in line for too long and that's bothering me, I will pinch my fingers and discreetly go, give it a bit of a shake, and I'm back in the house. All right. So what I want you to do, Curvin, just to make this real and give people permanent access to this, is we're going to exhale, and then we're going to wait for something that is mildly, and I'll say it again, mildly annoying. All right. And when we get that thing that's mildly annoying, I want you to hit those power buttons and snort through your nose, but snort it like you want to suck that air and blow that thought out the back of your head. Okay, so this is how we get intentional. Something that's bothering you, you snort that shit out. Okay? And then we wriggle it, and then we let out a nice big sigh. And if you want to cover your mouth, you can. So we actually wriggle it to the surface and then purge it out with that as an offering. Okay, so you clear on what we're going to do?
Yep.
Exhale, wait until something's mildly bothering us, snort it out the back of the head, wriggle it to the surface, and then sigh it out, yell it out, whatever you want to do. Cool?
Cool.
All right. Blow it out, shake it out, blow it out, shake it out, blow it out, shake it out, 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 out. When you're all the way out, hold. When you're all the way out, hold. And then think of something, wait till something mildly annoying comes through, and then pinch your fingers and snort it out the back of your head. In. Now wriggle it up, push it to the surface, 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 push it up, push it up, push it up. And when you can't stop it, put your hand over your mouth and go, out, 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 out. Get it out, all the way 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 out. And if you want to breathe in again and go, again, you can. Ooh. And how's your system now? Do you feel like you've got a bit more space in there?
Yeah, what's super interesting is a lot of people probably don't notice that when you're in high stress levels, you clench your jaws a lot, right? And so what you'll notice after this is that immediate release of the clenched jaw. There's tons of health problems that come from constantly clenching.
Yeah, so I'm sure there's a date stamp or a time stamp for this to go back to watch again. But what Curvin has hosted is real access to your own power. And some people listen to this go, oh, whatever. But some people go, holy crap, this is everything. This is freaking everything. And I just wish I knew that, because things would piss me off during the day. I'd wear it. And then at the end of the day, I'd just pour alcohol over it. Things still piss me off. We're all in the world, but I can snort it, clear it out, and it's no longer weighing on me. So for the people that are listening, I really encourage you to give it a go, but also post your experience on Curvin's site, because we wouldn't be having this conversation if Curvin didn't respond to an email I sent him a little while ago. So he has seen something here that he's bringing his people. And imagine if this works for you, how many other people will it work for? And how easy was it to learn? How many people that you come across could benefit from this? You could be the one that introduces them to the medicine inside themselves.
You're absolutely right. And as everyone thinks on that, I would like to take just a few moments as we wrap up here for you to let people know, where they can get this medicine. And just to reiterate what you said was we're not talking about 3 days or 7 days or 14 days, 28 days to try it out, because in 3 days you can't change your life in 3 days. I'm sorry. A man can change his stars, but he cannot do it overnight. Rome was not built in a day. So you're providing access for 28 days to give it a shot. And if you find benefit after that, then continue on with the subscription.
Well, yeah, so whatever phone you've got, just go on the App Store, look up 3 words, breathwork, 1 word, in bed. You are telling it when you want to sleep, when you want to wake up. We take care of the rest. And you, my friends, will be in charge of that golden 5 minutes going to sleep and the golden 5 minutes waking up. And if you can be one of the few people that do that, then you get a chance to bring that which you truly are into the world without fatigue. So that's what makes me super excited.
Everyone thought, oh, Kervin's playing it up. It's right here. Got
It
it.
is.
Been using it. So
And allow yourself to have a bit of fun with the morning routine. There's a few surprises in there that I won't talk about now, but when you get on there, you'll see.
absolutely. Tim, thank you so much. This has been an incredible conversation. Emotional in a different way. I love to get into emotional conversations, as with people like yourself who have lived experiences similar to mine. But I think this was there's good emotions, right? Things that can help us de-stress our lives. And so I appreciate what you are doing, not just for the veteran community, but for the world writ large, in a time where, we do a weekly geopolitical podcast. The world's not in good shape if you read the news or you read Twitter. But it's getting there. And it's people like you. You'll never know the violence it took to make me this gentle. And I think you embody that phrase right there. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Kevin.